Okay, let's see what comments we got on the new video. If an endgame screen ruins it for you, I feel that you have bigger problems. They don't take themselves too seriously since Front has huge crab rave at the end genuinely made me crab Oh my god, it's so bad. Kill myself, Lauren. Gosh, you guys really like that dancing spider's end screen, don't you? Now, I'm just going to tuck right into the juicy bits today. We don't waste any time around here. I don't like goofy shit in For Honor. As a matter of fact, I don't like out-of-place goofy shit in any game. It creates a tonal inconsistency that ruins identity. And today, I want to go beyond. We're going beyond For Honor. We're trapped. We're trapped in Plato's For Honor cave. We need to realise there's a whole world outside. It's time to get some perspective on why tonal consistency is important in games. Before we understand tone, we need to take a step back. Tone is derived from themes. This applies for most forms of media, games, movies and books. Most stories start with a theme or themes that the plot revolves around. The writer or storyteller, whatever you want to call them, they then build their tone from this. For example, Dark Souls 1. I think that the key theme here is, of course, hope. No matter how bleak things become, you can find that light in the dark, no matter how small it is, and you keep moving forward. Notice how I said I think the main theme of Dark Souls 1 is hope. Something I've always maintained is that when you're writing a story, you forfeit control once someone else consumes the media. Doesn't matter what emotion you intend for the audience to feel, because every person will interpret it slightly differently and then form their own opinion. Someone else might say the complete opposite about Dark Souls 1. They might say it's about letting go of the past and embracing the unknown, choosing the Chad Dark Lord ending and siding with Carve. I would even say that video games allow for wider interpretation than films or books. This is because you must factor in player choice. Once you have your theme, you can build tone. Everyone and their mums knows how well Dark Souls 1 builds tone. Everything down to the environments, the NPCs and the enemy designs all scream how this is a world on the brink. It's past its prime, almost post-apocalyptic, but you still have these little moments that show not everything is lost. Tonal consistency is one of the most important factors of world building in a story. The second you break it, you're almost guaranteed to break your audience's immersion. You see what I did there? See how jarring that was? I just broke your immersion. Immersion broken. Now, if we were to apply everything I've just said to For Honor, although any sense of story exists purely to allow the meeting of these different warriors from history, there is still a theme in the game. And if I was going to verbalize it, I would say that For Honor's main theme is about man reverting to its most primal and natural state, conflict. This is something that the fan base embodies quite literally. Although For Honor at its core is a multiplayer fighting game with no real emphasis on story, the theme still serves as the game's foundation. From that foundation, you begin to build tone, which then influences everything down to the character design, the cosmetics, and the art direction. What's great in For Honor is that you're able to use the customization to create a personality for your hero. You can make an honor-bound knight that respects his opponent, or a raging Viking lunatic that wants to crush his enemy into pieces. So now we've arrived at another question. Does For Honor's tone in its current state reflect its themes? When I think of man being trapped in a cycle of never-ending violence because its inability to change its own nature, I don't think of shit like this. Before you start wigging out, oh, you don't like fun? Not everything has to be dark, blah 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 blah. Sounded like freaking Ugluk from fucking Two Towers. You want some? Goofy content is all about execution. And I just don't think that it's executed properly at all in For Honor. It rips any form of tonal consistency away. For example, the recent Shaman, Tiandi, and Warmonger executions. They fit each hero's personality so well. Shaman is a rabid dog mauling a victim to pieces. Warmonger is a vicious tyrant executing her enemy, and Tiandi is a dickhead styling on his opponent. They fit the tone of perpetual war. If you wanted a paired dancing emote, why not have a ballroom dance? weapons. That would fit the knights so well, especially with the masquerade cosmetics. Have the Vikings link arms with a horn full of mead and skip in circles. Imagine Warmonger and Conqueror doing a waltz together. The problem with the goofy stuff is that it's played for like one cheap laugh, but now we just have all this random stuff in the game that doesn't fit at all. It's gluttonous. There's no restraint to it. Someone needs to be like, no, you can't have a disco floor dancing emote in the medieval fantasy fighting game, okay? It's an aesthetic mess. The problem with using the meme content as well is that it becomes outdated quite quickly. It becomes irrelevant. The original content is timeless. It won't go out of fashion. You can still have the light-hearted elements and moments of brevity. The problem is if you treat everything as a joke, it will become one. It's about execution. Let's take a wildly different example, okay? Let's take the character of Thor from the MCU. Thor is given a pretty solid character arc across Ragnarok and Infinity War. Despite all of his strength, he loses everything. His home, his best friend, his brother, and then he fails to stop the bad guy. And then we get to Endgame, and this failure has broken him. It's clear the character is depressed. Instead of tying this arc up in a nice little bow by showing that even a god can fail, become completely broken and then find his way back, instead of building on this amazing groundwork, his depression is just played as a joke constantly to the point that you can't take him seriously. He goes from being this godly character whose humour stems from him learning to become more human and in touch with his emotions, to this bumbling idiot that nobody takes seriously. And it's just doubled down on in the next film.
Listen, we good? I mean, I know it's a little weird having my ex-weapon around, but come on, Mjolnir in the past. It's you and me now, buddy. I'm sorry we've been fighting lately.
Tonal consistency is gone. Obviously, this is a character-specific example rather than a setting, but it still applies. It's such a fine line to walk between getting it right and wrong. For me, I think it comes down to whether it adds to the personality of characters or the atmosphere of the game. I think the more that you embrace the tone and work with it, the more successful your game, movie, or book is. Now, I'm not the arbiter of what you can and cannot do. You can make up your own mind, but in the case of For Honor, I don't think it's good for the game long term. If Ubisoft kept to the tone of the game, if they focused on content that kept the theme, I think it would be much more appealing. If I was on the outside looking in on the game, silly dancing emotes would not be the unique selling point of the game for me. And that's not to say that the tone can't evolve. I liked the Halloween event and that was a bit left field. But instead of milking the game with cheap TikTok attention span content, double down on what makes the game great. Anyway, in stark tonal contrast, my next video will be the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Elden Ring build. I am not blind to the irony here. Do what you wish with that information.